Welcome to the Tizen workshop, and today we're going to be checking how to develop for wearable devices. We're going to be talking that for almost 2 hours, or the amount of time that it takes us to cover the material that I have. And I am Diego Lizarazo Rivera. I'm a senior developer evangelist with Samsung Electronics of America. And I've already been doing this development and developer relations for quite some time. So I already have a little bit of experience on how to connect with developers and developer communities. And that's pretty much my job, just to show you some technologies, get you excited about it, and try to answer all your questions in general to make you as a developer successful. So that's where we are. Now, one thing that I'm going to repeat many times, and I think everyone that connected before a time, they already saw it, is this link over here, developer.samsung.com. So that's the portal for Samsung developers. And you're going to find information specifically about the topics that we're going to be talking today, that are Tizen wearable applications, Galaxy watches, etc., etc. But you're also going to find information about many other technologies, Samsung technologies, that it could be the Bixby, the voice assistant, the Galaxy Store directly. You're going to have access to technical support, mobile devices, smart homes, and IoT. So we have a lot of things there, and perhaps if we have some time, at the end, we're going to check it a little bit, but this is the page that I'm talking about. So you can see that we are sharing a lot of things, including videos, in case that's the way that you like to consume information. This is my colleague, Tony, and he does something similar to what I do, but more on the design side of things. So for mobile themes for your phones, and also for creating watch faces and making really awesome looking applications for the wearable devices. And this is my series, the Tizen Tidbits. So I created small videos that you can consume in 10 minutes or even less than that, and they are telling you a little bit more about what you can do with Tizen. So let me check the chat. Okay, so something. Okay. So going back to my presentation, that I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. These are some of the reasons to join the developer program, but I could go on for hours about this, like why you should connect with Samsung, why you should join the developer program. But really, it comes down to two big things. Samsung is a global company that is able to reach a lot in many ways through mobile devices, television, internet technology, like a lot of devices that people have in their hands or at home. And if you're a developer and you're interested in creating things for them, in creating things that can reach all those homes, all those consumers, the best way to talk with Samsung, that is a gigantic company with hundreds of thousands of employees, is to join the developer program. If you have a question and you don't know where to go, it's much easier to connect with a smaller team than trying to find it by yourself. It's much easier to say, like, hey, I already look in the forums, but I don't know where the question is, or I don't know where the answer is. So can you help me with this? And that's our job. To try to give you those answers, to try to help you to create the applications and the technologies that you want to create. So I think that's the best way that I can do it. You can see a little bit more about that. And with that, I will jump directly to Tizen introduction over here. So I'm going to check really quick. Where's my chat window? I want to check if no one else. That's not what I want. It was not showing me. Okay, seems that right now we don't have any other questions. So one thing that I want to tell you, that I repeated before, if you have any questions, go to the chat. You can raise your hand. I see that more people join after I started talking, so I'm allowing everyone to talk. So you can raise your hand and you can use the chat, or you can directly unmute yourself and say, like, hey, I have a question, so please let me know. I will try to I will try to answer all the questions that I can. But if I don't answer, what to try to do is just to find the answers for you and connect with you. So, and for that, I'm going to jump again to the end. This is my personal email over here. So if I at the end of the presentation, because you didn't, yeah, you didn't get a question answered, or it didn't occur to you during the workshop, or you begin to work on something in a couple of weeks, a couple of days, and you don't know where to go, just send me an email and say like, hey, can you talk with me for a little bit, and I'll try to do my best to do so. Now, I did have a workshop agenda, so you guys can see that it's almost like 5-minute blocks, and some parts are more lecture and other parts are participation. So I'm going to be asking you to send me code on the chat. So this is the general idea, but we're not going to marry this. So it's going to depend a little bit on your participation and your questions. So I have an idea of where I want to go, and at the end, we're going to be going for an application that is going to display sensor on a Galaxy Watch. But if you guys have any other interest, just please let me know, and we are going to try to adapt that and see how it goes. Where is the chat window? It's kind of like hiding it from me. Yeah, it's behind, of course. Mm. Previously had running okay. Previously had running. I had issues running Tizen Studio and Android Studio on the same Mac machine. Is this a known problem? I had to install Tizen Studio on a Windows machine for Tizen development, building for Samsung Watch and another, and I had to separately install Android Studio on a Mac for companion app development. I would have to see what is the problem, what is the issue that you had. Right now, on my Mac specifically, I have Android Studio and I have Tizen Studio and haven't had any problems. So it could be the version that you were using, or it could be the Java version that you were using. I know that Tizen Studio usually relies on an older version of Java, so it could be that. But if you still want to do that, perhaps the best way to go about it would be to try to set up like a little bit of time with me, and then we can set a video chat like this, and I can check directly what are the errors that you were being thrown to see what's the problem um, that you are having. So, but personally, I have on my Mac. I have right now all the presentation is going to be on a Windows machine, but on my Mac that I have right next to me, just with the my steps, just to remember what is it that I'm doing. I have both installed, and so far I haven't had any problems. But hey, every machine is a little bit different. It could be something that I haven't even figured out yet. So, okay, let's go back to share my screen. So right now, I'm going to talk the first part just about Tizen Studio, Tizen development, and from there we're going to start the workshop itself, and we're going to start coding and creating things with Tizen Studio. So what is Tizen? So Tizen is an open source operating system. The main contributor and the main person or the main entity that is maintaining that project is Samsung. And the target platforms mostly are wearables and TVs, although we had also for mobile and smart appliances. But most developers are usually trying to get the wearable devices and the TVs that we have, obviously, millions of TVs around the world that are using Tizen. On the wearable side, that is what we're going to be checking today. We have two main lines, and the first one is the Galaxy Watch, and then the other one is the Galaxy Watch Active, or the Active Watch. So the difference between the two of them are mostly on terms of design. So this one is a little bit bigger, bulkier, a little bit more like solid, and it has this physical vessel that we're going to use in the development. The Active was designed afterwards, and it's because we figured out that we were underrepresenting the female audience and millennials. So like it was a little bit more like sleek. It had a unisex design, and the colors that we were offering are much different too. So like a little bit more vibrant. There's like a gold rose that a lot of people really like. Mine is, well, I don't know if you guys can see my screen. Well, I'll share. I'll show them later. So the active one here, mine is black, but well, a lot of people that go for the active usually pick other colors. So we will see. Now, when you are creating apps for the wearable devices, you can create three main types of applications. So watch faces, watch apps in general, and widgets. So today we're going to focus a little bit more on the watch apps, but obviously you can still create the two of them, and well, the other two. And there are several ways that you can create all of those. Watch faces are pretty much the thing that you see when you wake up your device. So like, well, the watch itself. And they have really awesome designs. And like I said, my colleague Tony Moreland, he focuses on helping you to create these designs, these type of things that look awesome and that people can download for free or paid from the store. The apps and widgets. So, well, an app is pretty much just an app. So it's just something that resides on the app tray, and you can change from the watch face and jump into that application. And it could be almost anything. So it could be weather, could be something that has to do with health. It could be games that at some point I want to just focus on a full series just around games, and well, it could be anything. And the widgets pretty much are like a small shortcuts, small like applications that can live on the watch face or in other apps, and then you tap on them and you can go there. Well, it plays some information, and then they can get you to a full application. So not necessarily, but that is like the main usage that most people give it. I'm going to jump directly into the Tizen architecture because this is what we're going to go for today. And there are three main ways that you can develop for Tizen applications. So with web app, native apps, and Tizen.net. This is the newest, and we're going to be talking a little bit about that. So native app is the first one that we created, and you can see that is the one that has access directly to the device APIs, and you can develop for that with C and C++. Tizen, like I mentioned, is the newest one, and with that one, you are going to be using C# and Xamarin. And we're going to see that there's a lot of collaboration with Microsoft just to get into that one because this is cross-platform. So I'll dedicate 1 or 2 minutes to that. And what we're going to be doing today is web apps. So like that's why I think we put that on the prerequisites for the workshop is to have at least basic knowledge on front-end application. You have some JavaScript knowledge, HTML, and CSS. It's great. If not, we're going to see today some basic things, so don't worry. I'm almost certain that we're going to be able to understand. Going back to the IDEs, for web applications and for native applications, we use Tizen Studio. So this is a program that was created by Samsung, and you can download it from for free from the developer site. So again, developer.samsung.com. But if you're going to be using .NET, Tizen.net, you will have to download Visual Studio. That is a program created by Microsoft. And then you're going to have to install a few packages, and we rely on Xamarin technology. So that's a technology that it was that company, Xamarin, that originally was something completely separate from Microsoft. Then it was acquired by Microsoft, so now it has a big integration. And their entire point is that you can create cross-platform applications. So you could create a wearable application that runs on an iOS device, on an Android device, and also on Tizen. So a lot of people nowadays are beginning to move to this because they say like, okay, that way I can just create mostly the same code, but different platforms. The big difference, I think, specifically with Tizen and Samsung wearable devices, is the shape. If you go and check an iOS device, mostly all of them are square. So ours wanted to be more like traditional watches, and they are circular. So quite likely, if you go for cross-platform development, you will have to redesign or make a small changes on your application just to consider that you're talking about a circular screen. So that's something that you have to keep in mind. Apart from that, well, I think I put it here. Yes, this is something that I'm going to share at the end, but like I said, in developer.samsung.com, you're going to be able to find a lot of the documentation and guides to start your platform, your application development. Also, you can go to tizen.org. They have a lot of the documentation, and well, that's the first place where it's going to be updated whenever a new version comes. And this is directly, you can go here and find the right link, or just go to program.developer.samsung.com to register as a Samsung developer. So, this moment, I'm going to pause for a second so access to the Zoom chat and the interface, and just pause for a second and ask if you have any questions. If so far it makes sense what I'm talking about, and if you have any other questions so far. Otherwise, we're going to jump directly into the developing part. We have 1 hour and 45, and if you paid attention to my planned agenda, we are going to be using all of those minutes that we have available. So I'm going to give it a second. You can raise your hand. Remember, you can raise your hand on the chat on Zoom. I allowed everyone to talk, so worst case, unmute yourself and talk, or use the chat. Okay, you can do that at any given time during the workshop. If I am not responding, quite likely someone from my team is going to be looking at the chat, and they may be, well, telling me attention, or at the very least trying to respond there on the chat, depending on the question that you make. No? Okay. Going one, going twice. Okay. Then what we're going to be doing is, well, sharing my screen. And I'm going to start checking Tizen Studio. So when you open the first time, Tizen Studio will look something like this. Okay? Now, I have a few projects that I had open here in this workspace. Quite likely, it's going to ask you, like, hey, where is the workspace that you want to work? And that pretty much is like a folder where all your projects are going to be there. I have a few here. One of them we're going to check later. The other one pretty much is just me cheating. So in case that I forget a line of code, I'm going to jump into that one and copy paste. So I don't want to tempt the demo gods that usually stop workshops and anything that you think that works. Of course, is going to fail, so quite likely I'm going to jump there and copy paste things so we don't get bogged down by small details. But the first time, this is going to be empty, and this is the UI that you're going to have. So we're going to start with the smallest thing. We're going to create a hello world. So now you can go directly to File and say New Tizen Project, or you can just create here with this button, and you can see that you can download it, and then it just, well, Tizen project. So here you have always two options. There are template or sample. So we're going to start with templates. Later, we're going to go on the sample side of things. Now, because Tizen can be used for different platforms, you can pick which one you want and the different versions that you can go. So you have mobile that right now is not allowing me because quite likely I didn't install those packages, since that's not what I'm doing right now. And then today we're just going to go for wearable. These ones that are marked as extended, that means that when you are downloading the packages, installing Tizen Studio, those are additional packages that you need to install. So, and you can see that are TV and IoT. So if you're creating an IoT application, you still can use Tizen. And that is great, specifically if you are thinking about like things like smart appliances, smart home. Like if you have small sensors and you want to use Tizen to talk with other Samsung devices, this is a great way to do it. But today we're just going to go on wearable devices. I'm usually picking version 4 because I think version 5 is the one that is usually running on TVs. And the new watches that quite likely we're going to release this year are the ones that are going to have Tizen 5. So just for clarity, I'm just going for 4. Now, like I mentioned before, we have two options: native applications, C, C++, or web application. Today, we're going to pick that one. And this is what we have here. So basic UI, this TAU, that's Tizen Advance UI. So we have two of those. We're going to check these three. These other two, well, you have the widget that I mentioned before, but I don't think we're going to have enough time to cover that, and I would prefer to cover other topics, but you see that the options are there. So we're going to start with basic UI. Obviously, the first thing that is going to ask you is like a name. So I'm just going to say basic UI, and I'm going to give the date. I don't even know if I created another basic UI before. So we have it there. And it's going to take a couple of seconds to create the project and create the files that you have that you are going to need. So we're going to check that for a second. And let me check here. I wanted to figure out how we're doing on time, which of course now I don't know where it is. Okay, so lecture 10, coding to Tizen. Oh no, we're pretty good. Oh, I'm happy. I'm checking my own schedule, my own agenda, and it seems that we're kind of like doing okay. So I'm glad. So okay, let's check this project. What is it that we have here? So this is a web application, so you're going to find several things here that should be familiar to you. So we have an index HTML, and you can see that the syntax that we have here is just almost super standard HTML, HTML5. Then you have other files that you're going to need, like the icons, config file, etc., etc. And then you have these folders like the JS, obviously for JavaScript, and CSS for our styles. So we're going to check those. But this is just code. It looks a little bit boring, just that, when you cannot test it. So we're going to run this on the emulator. And this is kind of like one of the first like cool things that I really like. So when you download Tizen Studio, or when you install the right extension on Visual Studio, you're going to have these additional tools: the emulator, package manager, the certificate manager, the device manager. Today, I think we're just going to focus on the emulator manager, and that's the one that I'm going to be looking for. So yes. Perhaps I should open the package manager at some point. I'll open that. And depending on the packages that you downloaded when you install Tizen Studio, you're going to have different images, different devices that you can emulate in your computer. So the one that I'm going to go for is this one, Wearable Circle version 4. So that's going to open another small window. And one thing that I really like is that it does show, it looks like the Galaxy Watch. And you can even see that it's going to start loading here Linux. It's parsing a couple of things. And I always get super nervous every time that I start the emulator and start here, because like the first time that I installed Tizen Studio, it was getting stuck in that spot. So whenever I see that logo that is loading there, the Tizen is like, oh, I'm good to go. Oh, this is another package. That's not an actual error. So this is the emulator. And you can see that it works just like how well it would work your Galaxy Watch. And this is your watch face. And you can start doing things with your mouse, well, going into the different applications. We're going to check a couple of things here. So also you have the vessel that you see here, that right now I don't have any applications. But that's something that I find that is really cool. And then you have these two buttons that we're going to use. This one is the back button, and this one is the power button. So whenever you press this, it's going to, well, or go back to the main screen. But if you can kind of keep it pressed, it's going to give you the option to power off. And then if you want to exit that, you just go like in a web browser, you can use the back button just to keep going back and get to this. So this is where our application is going to run. So let's go back to our hello world, that I think the only thing that is going to show is this message that we see here, basic. And let's run that. So we right click, say run as Tizen web application. And then that is going to start loading. You can see it here at the bottom, like everything on the, I should have come, right click. And it's just going to show basic. So that's your application. That is, well, quite basic. And you want to go back, you just press the back button, and then you're ready to go. So let's start with the simplest thing, of course. Let's change that. And then I'm going to say, hello. Hit Control S or Command S in a Mac, then we can repeat the process. Right click, run as Tizen application, and then I can jump here, and we're going to see it loading, not popping out like in the previous one. Hello workshop. So it's gigantic. Okay? So let's start making some small modifications here, because obviously, let's start with that. The letters are really big. So I am going to ask anyone in the chat. I think we're going to give away some swag. Is that correct? Can someone, I don't know, Jane or Char, let me know, like unmute yourself and let me know if we're going to give away some swag.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's Dana. So then I'm going to give the first person, like write on the chat. I think someone already is writing. Write on the chat, where do you think I should modify something to change the size of those letters? And I see that there's a question. So, okay, so okay, so Miko, I'm going to give you a partial credit, and Steve Barlow, I'm going to give you like the best one. That is the one that I was going to go. So I have some there. So Miko say index HTML. Well, yes, we can modify it directly there, but I think if we want to keep it like a little bit more clean, we can go to the CSS. So we can go to the style CSS. So we're going to go there. Someone say also like JS. Yes, we can use JavaScript, and actually we're going to do that. That is one of the steps that I'm preparing. We're going to modify the style directly with JavaScript. But I think the first ones that answer and that I am going to say like okay partial with Miko, and then full correct with Steve Barlow, you guys were the ones that got it. So we're going to go that for that, and we're going to make the first modification. So share screen again. So on index HTML, we have pretty much the structure of our entire application, how it looks. Okay, so here I could directly on the HTML directly modify the style. So we could type here style, etc., etc. So well, it's just kind of telling you, and then I can add whatever directly in line. So that's why I was saying that Miko is partially correct. Well, it's correct. It's just that the one that I was going for is more to modify this one here that we have, the style.css, that when you create your project is already on the CSS folder. So here you already can see that there is some style applied to this application. And in this particular case, we can see that the hello workshop that I added already has the class context text. So if we find it here, this is where we find it. So I'm going to start changing the color, which I think it's quite cool. One thing that you can do is if you put your mouse pointer into, well, on top, you hover on the color, it's going to give you the option to change directly here, so you don't have to remember the hexadecimal combination for a particular color or the RGB combination. You can directly modify it there. So I'm just going to make it red just because we can, or like some sort of pink, I don't know, whatever. And then the other thing is that we have 5 font size, so we can modify it here. So it's 5. So I don't know, I'm going to change it to 3. just to see how that looks. Then we save this file. You can see that after you save, it shows directly the colors, whatever in the CSS you are adding some sort of color. Then you can directly go and run again your application, and let's see what kind of changes we have. Hello workshop. So now it fits on the screen and it has a different color. So that worked pretty well. Now, so the entire point of this is just to show that we can pretty much treat the entire application as a website, as a web application that you have created before. So if you have already experience working with CSS, working with JavaScript, working with HTML, you are pretty much ready to take all that knowledge and put it here. And on top of that, a lot of these same things, you can even create a small application or try to migrate an existing website and put it here if you can do that. There are some things that I don't think, I hear that someone is going to ask a question. Go ahead. Someone was asking a question for a second? No?
I think it was just probably me, like it was maybe an accident.
Okay. No problem, no problem, no problem. So to try to avoid this kind of accident, if you just mute yourself, just make certain that you can unmute yourself in case that that you want to ask a question. And I'm totally okay with that. Like I said, I want to make this as dynamic as possible, since you are dedicating some time with me on this Friday when you could be doing so many other things. I really appreciate that, and I want to answer all the questions that I can. Okay, so well, that's pretty much it. So this is kind of like the. I thought that I was sharing it in the screen. Be great to know that when I am. Here it is. So that's what we have right now. So now the other thing that I want to show at this point is that in the emulator, and this is something that is going to be really important later in this workshop, you can right click and you can get to the control panel. So if it opens, there you go. So this control panel gives you access to a lot of the sensors and a lot of the things that you have on your watch. So there are several things that you can directly modify them here, and then you can create the code on JavaScript that we're going to see soon and react to those things. So one that I'm planning on adding in this workshop is the heart rate. So you can directly here modify the heart rate that we're going to be displaying, and even like how often is going to be how often is going to be reading the sensor for the heartbeat, and that's something that is going to affect our application. So these are some things that are really cool, and right now with our basic application we cannot do it, but that's where we are going for. The other thing is that if you do have an actual device, if you have a Galaxy Watch, Galaxy Active, then you don't really need to run the emulator. You can connect your application, your Tizen Studio or Visual Studio, with the actual device, and then you can deploy the application there to test it directly on your watch. So obviously that is important for certain applications, specifically, for example, if you're creating something with the gyroscope, you cannot easily emulate that because we cannot just move it around. But if it's on your wrist, quite likely you are going to be able to do that. So there are some applications that you are going to really need that. But with the emulator, you can cover like 90% of the cases of the applications, use case scenarios that you are going to be able to come up with. You can do it here. But if you have the option to have a Galaxy Watch and work with us in one of our workshops, the only thing that you need to do is to put the watch and your computer on the same Wi-Fi and have it relatively close by, because usually we send some things via Bluetooth, and then you can just deploy the application directly in your watch and start working with that. So that's something that is quite important. Okay, so this is what we have with this project. I'm going to jump into a different one just to kind of like make something a little bit more interesting. And I'm going to create another project, again, templates, wearable devices, in case you missed that the first time, web application, and we're going to use this one, the basic. And it's going to ask me basic, so I'm going to say 047. And I'm going to stop here for a second because I think I saw a question in the... Okay, yes, a question here on the chat. Is it necessary to choose Tizen Web over native development? No, it is not necessary. So I'm going to go back for a second to that. This is a great moment to answer that question. So here, to the Tizen architecture. So if you check this graph that we have here, Tizen native apps, they have direct access to the APIs that are running on your device. So a lot of people and a lot of companies that really need a fast, responsive application that it could be, I don't know, time sensitive, perhaps they would do better doing this. And if you have C or C++ knowledge, perhaps this is the option for you. What is the problem? That Web and .NET, at least with Xamarin Forms, they are technologies that were already thought to have like UIs. So everyone already understands how the browser UI works, and it's quite a standard HTML. So you can create a UI, how you're going to present your application relatively easy. On native applications, usually you are going to have a harder time on the UI. The responsiveness of your application, how fast it is going to be higher because you don't have any layer in between your application and the APIs. But it's going to be a little bit harder, the API. But that's why we give you the three options. You can create one or the other. You also have the option to create something that is oh man, what is the combination? Oh, hybrid. Man, finally, I found the word. Hybrid application. So you could create an application that is mostly native. So mostly, like most of the logic could be on C, C++, but then you could try to include some web app or web UIs or something like that. So you can experiment with those too. So you can combine the knowledge that you may have with those. Personally, I've never done that. And I think it's a little bit cumbersome. And the times that I have tried to create applications, I literally pick one of the three, depending on what I want to do. And if it's your first application, I would recommend personally go for web, because most people have experience with JavaScript, CSS, HTML. But if you are an expert on C# and you already have experience with Visual Studio and .NET, then by all means pick that or pick native. So you don't have to. We are not forcing you to do one or the other. Is that if you want to do something hybrid, or you have like in a specific use case scenario that is better benefited with one over the other, I would recommend to think beforehand. Or even best option would be to, again, this is something that I'm going to share at the end, shoot me an email, say, Diego, I want to tell you what is my idea to create an app, and give me some advice on what is it that I should do to start. And I will try to give you my best answer and the right one. So that's my personal recommendation. Okay, so I hope that I answered that question correctly. Let's go back to Tizen Studio. Okay. What we created, so I'm going to unfold this one, our basic application. Now we have this other project that is the TAU, basic 0417. So that TAU stands for Tizen Advance UI. So Tizen Advance UI, pretty much it gives you libraries to handle the circular shape, circular screen. I'll talk about this for a second. And also to handle some interaction directly that you're going to have on your device. So since I already see this, the emulator is going to act almost just like your phone, like your watch. And after a while, it's going to start going on sleep mode. So from time to time, if you're on Tizen Studio and you're going to deploy an application here on the emulator, sometimes it gives you an error and says like, hey, I couldn't do it. And sometimes it's because your watch is sleeping. So the only thing that you have to do is just click here or tap in one of the buttons or something. Then it wakes up and then you can do it. So just it's a small thing. Now on this project, I wanted to compare it for a second with this other project that we had here. So first thing, you're going to see that when you create a Tizen Advance UI, a TAU application, you have already this other folder that is the library folder. And of course, and you can see that in this one, in the basic UI, we didn't have that folder. Here we have TAU, we have wearable, and you have two different things. One is behavior, so you have the JavaScript files, and then you are also going to have themes that these are CSS files that are going to help you to make things a little bit better and already gives you some controllers that are already designed to work on the circular screen of the Galaxy Watch. So that's something that we're going to use in this specific project. Now, since the rest of the project is going to be relatively the same, we have the index HTML, we have our JavaScript here, including some additional ones, the circle helper and the low battery check. And we're going to have our CSS. So I'm going to open this. So we're going to start creating some things. And we're going to go back. Perfect. So first thing that we're going to have here is well, let's run this thing already on the emulator and see how it looks like. Yep. It's deploying. And there you go. So it has a little bit of more of a structure, and we're going to use that. So let's do this. We had two parts. So one that it was a title that I don't know if you saw it, that had a little bit of a different color, a blue one. It's a TAU basic and then hello. So immediately just loading the Tizen Advance UI, you can start using some classes on your HTML to make it look a little bit better, and you don't have to modify those things yourself. So, and this specific, and that's why this project already has some of these elements to give you an idea of the name of those classes. If you're really, really, really interested in knowing how that works, then you can go directly to one of these, and well, it's telling you here the location of that. So blue, I don't know. Ah, here, this is one of the ones. You're going to have like all the CSS here, kind of like a little bit minified, and it's going to be a little bit harder to read, but you can have access to everything that you are using in this project directly on those folders. So you can modify them since it's making a copy on your own project. So you can go and do that. And you can look for specifically for the classes that you want. So we're going to say here, I'm going to just modify it a little bit. Tizen workshop, and below there. That's it. We're going to save it. But then really with this project, the thing that I wanted to do is to start going to a different page. So since this works just like a web application, we can create as many pages, as many HTML pages as we want, and we can start moving through them. And we can start like showing different details. So let's suppose for a second that I'm going to create another HTML. So just because I'm really bad with names and because I already talked about this specific example, I'm going to create an HTML file and I'm going to call it second.html because it's our second page, right? Super original, Diego. So there you go. So you have it there. Now, on our index HTML, we can say, hey, I'm going to go in this paragraph, I'm going to add, well, not inside, what I'm going to add here is an anchor, a link to another page. So here we can say directly A. So yes, this is the one that I want. Well, I want to put the message inside, so I'm going to move it. Tizen Studio tries to close every single thing that we have here, so it's always well formed. And then I'm going to add the href that we want. And in this particular case, it's going to be second.html, right? So I'm going to save this. Now, this second.html, it works because the two pages, second and index, they are on the same folder. If we kind of decided to create another folder here is, I don't know, pages or detail or whatever it is, I would have to put the path here and say like something like ./folder, name of the folder / second.html. So that's something that we have to consider. Now, the other thing, I'm going to be a little bit lazy because it takes some time to type all this thing. And I'm going to go to second.html and I'm going to replace the body so I don't have to rename all this thing. And what I'm going to do is to change the ID, which could be important for navigation. And I'm going to call it second. And then here, this one, I'm just going to say second page. So this is going to be our title. And then I'm going to change this one for hola. That's it. So let's see if this works. This is the moment where, like, that I told you about the demo gods. Quite likely I'm going to be missing something and it's not going to run and I'm going to be like, why is it not running? So I'm crossing my fingers. I do that every single time. It's running our application. So Tizen Workshop, hello there. And now if I click here, it goes to the second page. So that worked with Ola. And this is where also the buttons begin to come in place, because now just including the Tizen Advance library, UI library, then you can click back and it's going to send you back to the main page. So you already have a little bit of the structure of an application. So you could have something here that shows you general information, for example, let's say the weather. And let's suppose that you have a list here of cities, and then you want to learn how is the weather in Washington, D.C. You could tap on that. It would show you the detail, and then you could just go back, pressing the button, and do that. So where is that? Well, that is already added on the app.js of your application when you create the project. And pretty much you can see that is already asking some things that we can easily read here. So I'm not going to go into all the details, but we're going to check it really quick. So pretty much it's adding an event listener to check for a Tizen hardware key, so HW, hardware key. Then it's going to ask like if the key that was pressed, so the button that was pressed was back. That is the one that we have here, the top one, because this is the one, this is the back one, and this is power. So if it's pressed back, then it's going to be checking, and this is just jQuery, it's going to be checking like the classes that we're adding to the different elements and trying to find the UI page that was active. And that's why I try to copy paste the body of these HTML pages just to make certain that I had the right ones on the second one. So this code here, you could analyze it later and just say like, hey, this is how I wanted to make it. You could add more things here and just kind of like add different IDs just to make certain that you create the right navigation in between different pages. So you could create an application that is just a set of pages, and you're going through all of them. And depending on the elements that you are clicking, you could go to different pages or return to other pages depending on the state. So that's an easy way that you could start making this animation. So that's good. Now, I'm going to stop this one here, and I'm going to jump to the next step on my agenda. And is we're going to add an image. So, okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we still have a little bit of over an hour. So I'm going to do this part, and then what I'm going to do. Is there something in the chat? Okay, so I am going to make a small pause here. I'm going to see if there are a couple of people that are still not allowed to talk. I'm going to ask if anyone has a question. If not, I'm going to add an image to our application, and then I'm going to give you a small break of like 5 minutes or something. So if you need to get some refreshments, just kind of like clear your head, walk around your living room or something like that, we can do that. So right now, do we have any questions? Okay. So I'm going to add a little bit more of questions in the next step, and the steps after the break. I think I'm going to add a little bit more of questions that you can answer on your chat. And someone was also asking, will the recording be posted and where? So Zoom sends an email to all attendees that includes some general information about that. So what I'm going to try to do is to edit during the weekend or something like that, to have by Monday ready the full video. We're going to try to post it on YouTube. And quite likely we're going to send you the link there. If not, by any chance you miss that email, then you still can go to our YouTube. Well, let me see if I can go from here. Do we have it at the bottom? I always forget. Well, we're posting several of the videos directly on our feature videos. And if not, then you still can go on YouTube to the Samsung developer channel. So that I should have over here. There you go. So this is the Samsung developer channel. So you can look for it, Samsung developers. And this week and the previous week, we had a couple of live chats, and you can already see that we already uploaded the videos. So this one was like last Thursday. It was a full hour with Samsung developers, and we were answering questions. And this one was, I think, it was published 1 day ago. So I think 2 days ago, Tony had a full chat also around design. So you can see them here on the Samsung developers channel on YouTube. And you can see that also we have many other videos, hundreds of videos, including some of mine that are like this one, the Tizen tidbits. So you can check the playlist. So we should have the Tizen tidbit somewhere. I don't know where it is. And we're currently posting, here, Tizen tidbits. The second one. And office hours, I think right now we have 5 videos for some reason. And we are going to put everything here in terms of workshops. So if by any reason you don't get the link on via Zoom, via email, then we're going to post it here on YouTube, and then you're going to be able to do it. Quite likely what I'm going to try to do is to break it in smaller videos, so you don't have to watch 2 hours of video, more like specific ones. And I'm going to, in the title, add what is it that I'm talking about, so you can jump directly to that section. Perhaps the full 2-hour video, that's the one that is going to go on Zoom, and you can watch the entire thing there. So some of these questions, quite likely, I'm going to cut from the small videos that I'm going to publish there. Okay, so going back to Tizen Studio. So right now, our application is a little bit sad because it's just text. And then there is a question of like, hey, what do you do if you want to add like more cool things? So what I'm going to do is to add an image. So of course I had some images that were ready here. I'm going to use this one that is a logo. We're going to use these other ones later too, that are background ones. So like you can see B1 to B5, but I'm going to start with the logo. So how do you add a file to your project? Pretty much you just drag and drop. And I'm going to drop it here. It's going to ask me if you just want to link the file itself or just copy it. I'm going to copy it, so it's going to move it to the same folder that the entire project is in. If you link them and you don't remember that and you have it in a completely different file and you are sharing, then you could modify that file and then you may not know that it's changed your application. So that's something that I usually don't try to do, but well, depends on how you work. And you have it here, logo.svg. So what I'm going to do here is that in this section, in this div that is UI content, this is where we added our hello there. So here I could add an image. So, and this is for a question on the chat. Anyone that shares on this chat what kind of like tag, HTML tag that I can put here to add this logo, well, you can get some swag from our friends of the developer team. Okay, image source. So Fan Union. Oh man, I'm so bad with this. Sorry. So yes, image source. Yes, that is the one that we're going. So well, 3 persons can like answer that. So Neda, Laura, Tantan, like you guys all answer correctly. That's exactly what I need to do. So where's my share video? Share video. So that's exactly what I need to do here. So unfortunately, we have the autocomplete here. So image. So yep, that's it. It immediately asks for the alt, which here I don't need it. So I don't need it, whatever. And then here you're going to have the source. So I do know what this is going to do. So I'm going to take away these ones because I can drag directly from the Project Explorer the file, and then it's going to say like what you really need is the name. So here you already got it there. The cool thing is that if you do that in something like this, the style.css, because it already has a folder, I'm going to do it here and then I'm going to delete it. It already add the entire path. So sometimes if you have like doubts, just find the file here in your Project Explorer, and then it's immediately going to add the entire path of what you need. So that's not what I need, is just to show you what I wanted to do. So this is it. The other thing that I wanted to point here is that this is a vector graphic. So pretty much almost all the graphics that are supported by HTML are supported here. So let's see how this looks. I'm not going to, you could ask, you see? You could PNGs, JPEGs, GIFs, or GIFs, and SVGs, everything with him. It's just that I wanted to point out that this is one of the formats that are supported here on the application. So I'm going to do here. These are the kind of things I'm going to cut on the videos. So we don't have those pauses. And right here, we already have our logo. And not just that. On our logo, we could do something like, let's add, I'm going to be lazy, and I'm going to send it to the same page. So we could add immediately an anchor here, or I can do it the other way around, but this one works. And then that means that our logo is going to act pretty much as a button, at least to send us to another HTML that I already created there. So if I just tap here, she takes us there. Obviously, I'm kind of cheating because I'm sending you to the second HTML, but you guys get the idea. So this one is pretty cool. The other thing that we're going to check in the next steps after the break are how to interact. You guys can see like this scroll bar that we have already here that is circular. We're going to see in example, a different like a step that I already added, how to work with that and how the Tizen Advance UI helps you to work around this. So in the meantime, I'm going to go back to the chat. I'm going to mute myself. I'm going to allow everyone to take 5 minutes. So right now is, oh man, that's sharp. So 2 p.m. for me, I'm in Atlanta. So at 2:05, I think that's what, 11 a.m. for you guys in the West Coast. So at 11:05, we're going to go back. I'm going to mute myself. And you can ask me questions directly on the chat about this, about the developer program, about anything else. And I'm going to see you in a couple of minutes. Answers, guys. So if you don't have questions, I'll just during the next 4 minutes. Okay, so far I don't see any questions here, so we still have 3 minutes. So I'm going to put my presentation ready. And here, the contact. So you can see it here. Again, that's my personal email. Well, my work email. I'm never giving you my personal email. And also the support email for the developer program in case that you have any questions. And also, I would like to, two things. So since we're here, two things. So the first one, some of you, when you registered for the workshop, mentioned that you were interested in being part of the Samsung Developer Universe. So that's kind of like a new educational page that we're going to launch right now. Is in closed beta. But if you're interested in learning more about Samsung technologies in general, not just Tizen, it could be about mobile development, game development, IoT, Bixby, a lot of other things. Everything there, all the content that we have there is going to be gamified. You're going to have challenges. You're going to have prizes. You're going to have pretty much a scorecard, a score list that we're going to put people, developers, to compete. Then, if you're really interested, please let us know. You can send us. Well, you can send me an email. Or I think we're going to try to contact you afterwards if you say that at the registration time that you were interested. The other thing is that when we finish the meeting on Zoom, I think Zoom has a poll, has a little bit of a, well, pretty much a rating poll. Like you can let us know, a survey. That's the word that I was looking for, survey. It has a survey about the workshop, about how we did in the workshop, about the content, about me, about like any comments that you want to add, and what kind of things can we improve for future workshops. And right now, this is one of the best ways that we have to connect with all of you. So if you have a couple of minutes, you already spent 2 hours with us, then go ahead and fill that there. It's anonymous, so you don't have to fear any retribution from evil Samsung developers, namely me. So if you say that I suck, I'm not going to be upset. I may ask follow-up questions like why and how I can improve. But apart from that, we really encourage you to fill that up, because it's the best way for us to keep delivering the content that is important for you and that is relevant for you. So like I said, at some point, Samsung has a lot of technologies and has a lot of things that you can do with us, and it's hard really to pinpoint where developers really want to spend some time, and where and what kind of things you want to see. So if you tell us, that's going to work better for you and for us. So I would I would I would like to know what is it that you guys are doing. Okay, so I'll give it until 2:06 on my watch, on my clock, to see. Oh, the other thing, since I'm already here, I'm going to stop it. I just wanted to show like my oh, where's my face? Here. So this is how it works. So this is the Galaxy Watch, the active, there, and you can see that in this one it doesn't have the bezel like the Galaxy Watch that I have here. So it doesn't have this physical bezel that we're going to be using. So that's something that this one doesn't have, the active. And that's by design, because you still have the same interaction, just kind of like going around, touching the border. And the entire thing that was the design was pretty much just to make it a little bit smaller, a little bit more compact, and to have like more like clear and curved lines that you can use, well, and that people want to wear. So that's something that is important. When did the first Galaxy Watch came out? Oof, I don't know. The Galaxy Watch, I think we have. This is the Galaxy Watch 2. I'm going to ask someone on my team. Can you guys find me the time? I know that it has already been several years, and the latest one is the Galaxy Active 2 that came out late last year. So we're waiting for the new versions this year. The Galaxy Watch has been there like even a little bit longer. And before that, with Tizen, we had other watches that have been discontinued. But I don't know exactly what is the year. I'm really bad with dates. Like every single time that my wife asks me about like our anniversary, I actually have to kind of like think for a second. So that is okay. 2013, I believe. Okay, so okay, I'm going to what Dana says. So I believe you, Dana. So let's go with 2013. I'm really bad with that. Seriously, I know that this is the Galaxy Active 2, and it's one of those things that I can learn everything that you tell me about, like content, but dates, like numbers, no. So I think it's 2013. So thank you for that, Dana. Okay, so if we can jump directly back on my screen. Is it showing now? Here. Let's go back to Tizen Studio. So what I'm going to do is to close this application again. I'm going to create a third one, and that is to show something else that we have with the Tizen Advance UI. So I'm going to create a new project, again, template, wearable, version 4, web application. Perhaps in the question that I had before, if you had to pick native of web application, is this, if in this moment of the creation, if you're forced. Yes, at this point, you are forced to pick one of these two options. The thing is that if you're going to create something that is hybrid, when you're creating the native, you still can include HTML and you can link them. But what this is doing is to pretty much create a full project for you. So you have to decide which one it is, because it's going to create the folders and the files that are going to be included there. So then you need to tell the program, Tizen Studio, which one you want. Okay, going back to what we had. Well, we have already covered the basic UI, the advanced UI basic. We're going to go for this one. Oh, I see a Q&A. What is this? Okay, where is the URL for the demo that is being shown? Any related documentation? Okay, I'll send all those links at the end, because otherwise I'm going to stop in this point. So I'm going to answer that, and I'll give you the links. And if you're interested, then I can include a few more links on the Zoom email. And then quite likely on the edition of the actual video that I'm going to share, I'll put some more links so you can have it there. Okay, going back to this, the one that we're going to check right now is the template for the Tizen Advance UI list. Again, it's going to ask me for a name, so I'm going to ask, I don't think I have it there, so 0417, finish. Again, it's going to create a folder for the project, and it's going to create all the files, opens immediately the config file, the manifest for our application. We're going to open the HTML, and then I'm not going to tell you, well, I cannot tell you with the list, but still, just for my team so they can have more swag to give away. What is it that that this piece of code is doing? What is it that is doing on HTML? What this stands for? There are two versions of that. I will give it a second. So if anyone wants to jump on the chat and say okay, that's the code, the HTML code for, just how before we had the one for scripts, or the one for, okay, someone already answered. And I think another question. Well, did anyone answer? For list. Okay, Neda, you got it. That's perfect. That's the answer that I was looking for. So yes, that this is an ordered list, because we could have also an ordered list. This is an order list, and each one of this is going to be the list item. So LI, list item. So that's what we have here. And then you also see that here we also have inside of every list item a link, an anchor. But right now the reference is just going to, well, just a hashtag. So we're not linking it to anything else. So we're going to start first deploying this on our emulator to see how it looks. And we're going to start modifying this thing. And for the rest, 40 minutes or so, we're going to kind of get a little bit more into a JavaScript, which could be a little bit more interesting for developers, but we needed to get the basics, right? So this is the thing. So we have here already a list, but we had 10 items. Because of the size of the screen, we are not going to be able to display all the items at once. So this is where the vessel comes into play, that I think it's a great addition to do that. You can drag on the screen, or you can literally move it on the vessel here, which that's why I like the design, personally, of the Galaxy Watch over the Active, because you do have a physical component, and it clicks, you feel it clicking, so it has a nice haptic feedback that you feel when you're moving through the list. Okay? Now, I'm going to do really quick what we had in the previous example, that is to create a second page. And we're going to jump from one of these items to that second page. And then we're going to start adding more applications. So I'm going to do this part really quick, since we have already created something similar. And it's going to be exactly the same thing. I'm not going to try to be original with this. And then I'm going to copy paste the entire body here. And I'm just going to change it so I have the entire thing correctly. And I'm going to delete the list here. And here I'm just going to, well, UI content, second page. This one is not going to be the main. This one is going to be the second. And here I'm going to call it my second. Okay, so we put it there. And then here, since I already have to do it, second page, it goes there. So let's test it really quick. So this is where you begin to see how an actual application begins to look in the Galaxy Watch when you begin to add more contents, not just the hello world. So then for once, you could be displaying several items that in my example of the weather for different cities. This could be a city. And then you could go on the detail of that one, second page, and then you should be able to go back and do that. Now, this application begins to be a little bit boring. You know, it's just like a list, and it's just it doesn't have many animations or anything like that. So we're going to start modifying things with JavaScript. So first time that we open really the JavaScript file to do something with it. So JavaScript folder, app.js. So I'm just going to add everything here at the top. I could do it, organize it in a different way, and some of the samples that you have there, I think they are much better at creating like for modules and all that, and like a little bit closer to what you would have on an actual application. But here, I'm just going to go and jump and include some code here. So the thing that I want to do is to change the background using JavaScript. So first thing that I need to do is to go to my images. And yes, I picked these ones on purpose because I already have some colors that I want to play with. And I'm adding it here. So I'm going to copy paste the file. So right now we have our background one. You can open it here directly on Tizen Studio in case that you want to see it. So that's what we have. And we're going to add it. So I already have a way that I'm going to do it, but if anyone comes up with a small piece of code that allows me to change the background on index.html from this application, that it can be done in one line of code if you do it correctly. If you add something that makes some sense, then you get some swag. So I'm going to give it a second. And you can add anything. There are many options. So I'm not saying that there is only one option. You know, like in the previous one that we were talking about, like an image, it was pretty much just one piece of HTML code. Here, because it's going to be a piece of code, I guess there are several options, and I have one in my head. That's the one that I'm going to go for. But if what you give me makes sense, that's fine with me. Okay, so I'm going to stop so I can see the chat. Is anyone? No? Okay, going once, going twice. Okay, then I'm going to copy my version. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change pretty much the style of an element. So the first thing that we're going to do, or that I'm going to do, is I am going to I already had, okay, yeah, I'm not even going to change it. I'm going to add an ID to this div, but it's already there, so we already have it. Okay, well, awesome. So then I'm going to use that. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get that element. So document dot get element by ID. And here I'm going to say that this one, we needed to be named main. That is the same one that we had here. So then I know that I'm taking pretty much the outermost div. Then when I already got that element, I can say I'm going to modify its style. And then I can say that I'm going to modify the background, yeah, image. Did I type it correctly? Yes. Then this equals, I'm going to do like this. And then I'm going to give you the URL. And the thing here is that I can drag this. It's going to give me an error because we're like, not drag it there. Come on. Well, okay, I'm not going to be that lazy. So I'm going to type it. And this one is called b1.jpg. Okay. So this piece of code should be executed when we start our application. So it should change the background image that we have there. So let's see if I'm lying. You see something there? It's loading. So I'll make certain that this loads. There you go. So then now we have a nice background, and then we can have our list there. So I'm going to stop here to read the. Okay, still list HTML. Okay, background image in the JPEG missed it out. That's fine. So, well, you can do that. Yeah. Well, you were putting it directly on the HTML. Silly. I don't know. To the Mr. Mrs. Okay, you got it right. So awesome. So yes, that's pretty much like I can do it. I just did it directly, modifying on the JavaScript. But like I said, there are several options. So now the problem that I see with this is that I don't really like those colors. You know, like especially like the white, it doesn't really change much. It doesn't really like have a good contrast with the background that we have right now. So of course, one option that we have is to go back to our CSS and add something that in this case we don't have a thing. So we could go, and then the thing that I need to do is to change, well, the header, do I need to do it? I think we could just kind of change the list view elements. Yeah, let's deal with that. So since everything on this list, this is what I really need to highlight, is already on this class, then I'm copy pasting just to make certain that I don't make any mistake typing it. What I need to change is the list elements, and we can do it like with the anchors too. And what I'm going to do is here to change the color, and I'm going to make it black. No, it was already white. I think it was already white. Well, okay, that's going to give us the option FF here. And then the title, which I think it already had. We don't have an ID. Well, I'm going to give it an ID. So ID, and I'm going to call it title. So Control C, there. And then this one, what I want is really not a class, but an ID selector. And this one again, I'm going to change color. So hashtag FF. Okay, save, and both of them, they show here on white. Okay, so I think the list items were already white, so I think it's going to change the title. So now, the next thing that I want to do is I wanted to do something that you see in some watch faces that I kind of like, that is to change the background. So what if you don't want to have like an static background? What if you want to change the background just with one tap? So that's something that we're going to add here. So what I need to do is somehow detect that someone is doing a tapping in the watch or a click, which I'm already giving you some clues there. And then I need to change the background that we were working on, the background that we had there. So does anyone have any idea how to do that? You don't have to type only on the chat. If you want to talk and just kind of like tell me what is it that you could do, let's go ahead. I think right now almost everyone should be able to do that. Let me see. I think so. No, silly, of course. The person that is participating the most is the one that it was not allowed to talk. So if you want to unmute yourself and say like, hey, you can do this or you can do that, you can get some swag. If not, then I have also like obviously an option that I can put there. So if you have an idea, go ahead, unmute yourself or type. Okay, so Namida, say something on body. Is that on? Background color, yes, but that would change only. What I would like to do is to change images. So like what I'm going to do for a second, I'm going to share here. So right now we have this one that is background 1. I already had several here, other backgrounds that I'm going to add. So I'm going to drag them all to Tizen Studio. Where's Tizen Studio? Copy all the files. And what I really would like to do is to tap on the screen of my watch, and every single time I want to change that one. And right now we know how to change the background. That is going to be with a similar image, a similar line to this. But there is something else that is missing, that is detecting the tap, detecting the click. So that's something that, and look, I'm going to go back actually. Right now there in that code, there's a little bit of a hint of something that can be done and that we should modify. No one? Okay, so what I'm going to be doing is to add another event listener. In this case, what we had here in the code that was added by default was to listen for the hardware key. What I'm going to be doing is not listen for the hardware key. What I'm going to be listening is for like a tap or a click. So since I just, and I'm lazy, say like, hey, I am going to add an ID. I'm going to specifically change this one, change background. So one of the items in the list. And I'm going to give this guy an ID and say, yeah, I'm super original, guys. Clicky, of course. So then now with this, I should be able to detect when someone is touching or tapping on clicky. So I'm going to say bar or let or whatever. I'm just going to go for bar. I'm going to call it my clicky. Man, I'm really bad with this. My clicky is going to be and I'm not going to type all that thing. Here and then here, I'm just going to say clicky. Okay, so now in this one, in my clicky, we have the information about that specific list item that we had before. Now, what I can say is that on my clicky, I should come up with better names next time. I'm going to add an event listener here. So something like that. And this one is going to ask me first type. So this one is going to be a click. Okay. Then, and then here, pretty much I'm just going to, I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to obviously put a function here that is going to be executed whenever that happens. Function. There. So it already added that. It's going to be an anonymous function. Now here, since we already have this one, well, we can do that. Hello there. Do I need to change it now? Okay. So what I'm going to do here is add a counter bar. So current background. I'm going to start at 1. So you're going to figure out that the names of these backgrounds were really lazy. B1, B2, B3, but there's a reason. And is that I'm going to be able to change this counter to be able to circle around these different backgrounds that we have here. So then what I can do is say cur background ++, and then this one, I'm going to modify it. That is to change the background that we had. But instead of changing it every single time for B1, we're going to change it for this. No, I made a mistake. B, close here. I'm going to build the name of the application of the background that we have, and this one is going to be cur BG. And that one, okay, that one. Yes, this, and I think that's it, if I'm not mistaken. So then there's going to be a problem, but we're going to get back to that. So let's test this first. Someone trying to talk?
Yeah, the one has to be removed.
What is it? Sorry?
Yeah, the number 1.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you. That is correct. Because otherwise it's just going to be BGB11. Okay, you're correct. That was my mistake. So let's get it. Let's deploy it here. Let's make certain that. There you go. Then what's your name? You get swag. That's perfect. That's live participation.
Miko Haro.
Okay, perfect. You have been participating a lot, so thank you for that. Oh, what happened? Oh, where did it go? Okay, here. So then, if everything is correct, if I tap on the change background, now we're going to be circling through all of them. But then there's a problem. What happens when cur BG, already passes the number 5? That is what we had here. So well, Miko, since you already have the mic there, what do you think I should add here?
Then we should bring it back to initial.
Correct. So I'm going to ask if cur BG, let's see, is greater than 5, that is the last one of our backgrounds, then again, I'm going to be that lazy. I can go back to the first one. That was 1. So with that, we should be able to circle through our 5 backgrounds that we have up to this point. And now let's test it and see if it's correct. So change background. And it doesn't really matter how many times. Oh, I think more than 5, 6. Okay, I think, because I'm changing it before. Okay, so this, I should do it here. So I should move this after the if, because otherwise I'm still getting to 6. So we're trying to look for the 6 background that does not exist. So that's why there was a blank one there. We should make the check before we change the background. So 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it should go back to the first one. And that's it. As a side note to this, the images that I'm using, usually it works better if they are square. So if you want something in particular, all these ones I got, they are open commons, so they can be used for even commercial purposes. And I got them from Pixels. And the only thing that I did, kind of like cut them, trim them to be square, and I put them in 400 by 400, which you can change, but they look pretty nice. And well, you can find anything else there. So pretty much with this, you would already have something that looks kind of cool, just changing the background. And then in this particular case, I don't really need to do it with one item, like the click, the tapping. I could do it just like if you tap anywhere on the application changes, or I could put like a small icon or something like that in a corner, so just to make it certain that whomever is playing with this can do it. So that's a little bit of whatever you want to do. Okay, so we have like around half an hour. What I'm going to do is to explain really quick sensors, and then we're going to kind of jump into one sample that I told you that I had to do with the heart rate. So we're going to start with sensors. So you have something that is called the sensor API. And with that one, you're going to be able to manage the sensors. You're going to be able to receive notifications from those sensors. And you're going to also be able to obtain hardware information from those sensors. So there are some that have some limits, like, okay, what is the lowest heart rate that you can detect, or what is the fastest heart rate that you can detect? That I think it's like over 200. I think you can try to get it like faster than that or something like that, like a little bit manually. But hey, man, if you're getting like a heart rate over 200, like quite likely you're in trouble. So it's like you're running from the police or something like that. So kind of like calm down. So quite likely don't pay attention to your app, or you're having a heart attack. I don't know. So we're going to do something, two things, and that's relatively simple. First thing is we're going to try to get information about the sensors. And then second, something that we haven't done, but we have been displaying all this time, is that we have the console. So just like in other JavaScript development, you can use the console to show messages just for debugging, right? So we don't need to kind of like put it on the application. We don't need to display it here, but we can get a lot of information here. So what we're going to do here is first to create a variable. And this time I actually am going to name it something sensible, that is sensors. And I am going to say that this is going to get the Tizen sensor service. And in this one, I'm going to get the, well, you have several options, but in this particular case, we're going to go for the get available sensors. Okay, that's it. So now in this variable, we're going to have a list of the names of the sensors that we can use. And this is going to be interesting a little bit later because we're not going to see all of them, but we're going to go there. Now, before I go a little bit further, for another chat thing, just copy paste it. I'm not going to check if you guys do it. I'm just going to pause there for a second. If I want to write a message in the console in JavaScript, how do I do it? So if you have the answer, put it there on the chat. The first person that gets the right answer, like I see some sort of message. It doesn't show me the chat. Control H. Here. Okay, got it. Yeah, perfect. Console log. Exactly. That's exactly what I was going for. And since you already gave it to me, I'm going to copy paste it because I'm not going to type twice. I'm not really want to miss opportunities. So in this case, what I'm going to say is simple, like a message of whatever I want. It doesn't have to be anything important. Available sensors. So here, and then I'm going to add the sensors that we have here. But obviously, we have to kind of like turn this into a toString in here, just to make certain. So the big difference that we're going to have with this is that it's going to run this, and we're going to have a message here in the console that you see in Tizen Studio. Here at the bottom. Sometimes, depending on the setup that you have on your Tizen Studio, it could appear on the side, but you can drag it here. So in this case, we're going to see it here. So blah. So it's going to run. All these messages that we see here at first are deploying the application on our emulator, but at some point we're going to get this one. And of course, it's on the line 18 of our apps.js that is available sensors. And we can see that is showing us acceleration, gravity, linear acceleration, magnetic. I've never done anything with that one. That will be kind of a cool project. The gyroscope, that's the one that pretty much I was telling you about. It would be better just to try it on an actual device. That's going to be a little bit harder to test on emulator. Light, this one really surprised me. I did the first time that I saw it. I was like, oh, that's cool. Proximity pressure, ultraviolet, gyroscope rotation vector. So there are a lot of things there that you can do. Now, the one that you may not see, but we do have, is heart rate. And you saw it when I was telling you about the emulator control panel, that we have it here. So why is it not showing that? Well, pretty much it's because it's part of what is called the human activity monitor. You're going to see that I'm looking at that screen because I always messed up the name. I know that it's something different, and it says human something. So what is the human activity monitor? Pretty much it has to do with collecting information, collecting data from human activities. So it could be like of your body or things that we are doing. but using the sensors that we already have in the device. So obviously, we're going to get access to them, but depending on the device that you're using, you may not get them. So for example, I really would like to challenge you to get the heart rate if you are using something with Tizen on a TV. I would try to figure out how that TV has a heart rate monitor. Quite likely doesn't. So there are, like, depending on the application that you are creating, you have to be aware of the sensors that are available on your device. And that's why something like this, like the code that we added, is important, because then you can check if your sensor, the sensor that you want, is there. The other thing that we're going to see, and I'm going to create an error on purpose, is that the human activity monitor, because it's collecting information about you, about the user, and nowadays there is so much importance, so much relevance to privacy and to, well, everything that humans are doing, we cannot just ask for things nilly-willy. We have to ask for permission. So that's something that I'm going to start working on the hard sensor, and then we're going to get an error. This is kind of like the last big part of code that we're going to do. And after that, I'm just going to show you some samples and templates that we have there. But then let's get this here. So first thing that I'm going to do is to, well, create something that is going to be called heart, a variable that we're going to do that. And what I really want to get here is just to get an element to put that. So I'm going to, again, be lazy and use one of the elements of the list. So I'm going to say that this one is going to be heart. I'm going to use the third element, just to display the heartbeat right there. So I'm going to put it here. And this one, I'm going to do my beloved. I think I had another one. Yeah, that one over there. And I'm just going to say that not main, that heart. So now we have access to that element in our index.html. Now, I'm going to start kind of like in reverse. The first thing that you should do when you have a sensor is to start the sensor. So that's kind of like the first thing that you do with a sensor that is part of the human activity monitor or any other sensor. So even if it's gravity, you always have to start it. So you don't have to start collecting information, collecting data as soon as your application starts. You can do it later. So you could have one of these like radio buttons or something like, do you want to check your heart? And then you say yes, and then that's when you do it. So what I'm going to do here is to say Tizen dot human activity monitor, that's the one, dot start. So you see that there are several things, and also stop. Start. I'm going to leave it like that so it doesn't give me that. And then here you're going to tell the monitor what is it that you want to start. So you have some acronyms that in this case is human heart rate monitor, HRM. So that's what we're going for. And then you're going to call a function that we haven't created just to execute that function. That's going to be the callback when the heart rate changes. So in this case, obviously, I'm going to say on changed heart rate, HR. That's what we can do. So I'm going to copy this, and then here, how we really want to do it is to create a function. I'm going to name it, no, not a function. There, correct. I'm going to name it that. Correct. Now, the thing that I'm going to receive some heart rate monitor info. So that's going to be heart rate monitor info. Well, you can name it whatever, but that's the best way. And then we can print on the console the heart rate monitor. But since we already have an ID, an element on the index that we can display it, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to say heart dot inner HTML. It's going to be R equals to heart rate monitor, like the information here, dot heart rate. So heart rate. Okay, so that's it. So let's wake up our emulator over here. Then let's deploy the application. And let's see how this goes. And we got an error, which is what I told you that was going to happen. But fortunately, this one is quite clear. Permission denied. So what is it that happened? Was like anyone care? Like, was anyone paying attention? Because I kind of like told you already what is it that happened, and I even gave you a good reason for that. And perhaps with that we can get what is the answer. So anyone can put it. I'm going to give you like a minute so you can or talk or put it on the chat. So I'm going to stop there. And well, Control H. No. Chat. It's Alt H. Alt H. I was going to forget that. Come on. Why is it not showing it? Okay, well, I'm stopped. Okay, need permission from users. Yes. So please. Oh, I'm sorry. Like I needed. You need to ask for permission. Yes. Okay. So I have a few questions here. Console log. Is there a way to get body temperature from Galaxy Watch sensors? You get temperature, but not body temperature, as far as I know. And you can get also sleep, like sleep patterns. That one I do know that you can get, but I haven't checked in the latest version. Perhaps they have added that. Prompt work, yes, prompt would work, but instead of console log, but that's kind of like going to kind of like do a pop-up. That's not the kind of thing that I would like to do that. How to deploy a machine learning model on the Galaxy Watch and determine if a fall has been detected. Man, that one would be complicated. Well, you could. I don't think you can deploy a full machine learning model on the Galaxy Watch. What you can do is to use the gyroscope and the acceleration to detect the fall. Then the watch would send that to a machine learning application that should be running in some sort of server. Usually, machine learning applications could occupy much more space than what you could have in your watch. So in your watch, perhaps what you could have is a log of the activity, and then that data you can send it somewhere else. That you can do. And quite likely it's going to be like specifically for the fall, you are going to do the gyroscope, the gravity and acceleration, so you can detect what is the direction of gravity, where it's pointing, and perhaps when the person is falling, if a person is falling, it can detect like if it's going in the direction of the fall. So perhaps if a person is running, because the acceleration is going to go straight, going to be perpendicular to the gravity, then that person is not falling. But if the person is falling, quite likely his or her acceleration is going to point downwards. That is, well, the definition of a fall. So you could combine those two readings. The full machine learning, like I said, quite likely you will not deploy it there. And it's more like edge computing. And yes, MJ was talking about like a need permission from user. Yes, correct. And someone else told me to enlarge the font size, so I will do that. Thank you for that. Let me go back to it. So yes, what we need to make this thing work is to ask for permission. So well, I'm going to open a little bit more. Come on, enlarge. I know that I can do it. There. And I don't know if in the and then let me decrease this. Okay, so where we were, it's here. Okay, so now permissions. This is a part of the project that we haven't pretty much not touched at all. So just let me make certain that I'm opening the right one. So when you create a project here, it creates also a config.xml. Here, you're going to have a lot of things. There is the overview of your application, so your name, your icon. So this is obviously great to change if you're going to deploy this on the Galaxy Store. Then you're also going to have feature, privileges, localization, preferences. All that is going to create an XML file that you're going to see at the end. You can modify this manually. I would recommend not to do it if you don't know what you're doing. Because you can make a lot of mistakes. And also, all these other tabs are in place just to allow you to add the features and privileges that you want. So, if you guys remember, what it's telling me here is that permission denied. That means that we are not asking for the right privileges. So that's why I went here to add them. So you click, and since it's a long list, we're just going to type for the ones that we need. The first one is going to be health info. So we're going to, okay. Then the other one is for location, which, to be honest, I never understood exactly why for heart rate you need both, but I know that you need both. And then you can save. And with that in mind, then we should be able to deploy again our application. And then we should be able to see the heart rate displayed on the third item of our unordered list if everything went correctly. So I'm going to lower it a little bit. So right now it's saying 127. Hey, but it could be a hard-coded, oh man, no, that's not it. Could be a hard-coded number. So how do we know if that's working correctly, and how do we know if it's changing? Well, that's when the control panel for the emulator works. In this particular case, we need to change the heart rate. And here is where you can change the beats per minute. So, and you can see now that I'm changing that, and it's changing the display there on directly. Obviously, a number is not the coolest thing. It would be better to have like a little heartbeat or something like that, and we're going to check just that. So this is kind of like the last part that I wanted to show you, just to be able to show, well, for once that we could do it and that it is relatively easy. It was just a few lines, and knowing the right things for that. Second, if you can, again, well, here in the code, if you really remember what kind of things do you need to start displaying immediately, one of the sensors, at least the heartbeat in particular, you need this amount of lines. That is really 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not counting the brackets there. So 4 lines, and you immediately can start getting information, and just remembering that you need to ask for permission. Every single sensor may need different permissions, but that's the kind of thing that you can see in the documentation. It tells you like you do need these permissions. So that's something that, and let me see if I have that page open. So connect to Samsung. Well, I'll send the right one, but otherwise, yeah, I'll have to look for it. But that's pretty much it. Now, we have like 7 minutes left, so I'm going to pause for a second. And then the last few minutes, what I would do is to show you another sample, sample that is there. Well, 2 samples really quick. The one that is the heart monitor, just because we already created something related to that. And the other one that it has to do with UI, and see if you guys liked it. Like it's companion, thank you very much. Maybe the mobile device companion with TensorFlow. Sure, that could be something that you could do. So like having access, so like the memory that you have in your wearable device usually is smaller than what you have on your mobile device. And your mobile device also usually has connectivity. So then if you make a companion device, a companion application, pairing your Android application with your, well, it could be iOS, with your wearable application, then you could detect from the person, from the sensors that you have on the person, something like a fall, something like a heart rate, something like a sun exposure, something like location, things like that. Then send that to your mobile device, and then your phone is going to send that directly to a system that you could do. And that could be a machine learning model, or it could be something to record. I don't know, whatever you have in mind. That would be an interesting workshop. Quite likely it would be a little bit longer than what we did, because you would have to set up several things, but it would be something cool to create there. Okay, so I don't see any questions at the moment. Well, let me see which one. Okay, so your demo that has been shown. I think the URL, the best one. Most of the things that I was sending, they have to do. You can see that on the developer at Samsung.com. And which one? What's developer? This one. No, this one. The Q&A. I'm putting it directly on the chat so everyone can see it, but like I said, that is going to be included on the video and the email that you're going to receive from Zoom and the developer team. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen, show really fast, and I'm talking about like really fast some of the samples, and then we're going to be done. I probably end up talking a lot today. So when you create a new project, we have been creating templates. You can also use samples. So that's what I wanted to show. Again, you're going to be picking the platform that you're going to go for and the type of application, native or web. And then depending on that is going to show you different samples. So there are like two that I would like to check today. So the first one is going to be the sensor, just because we already created something like that, and the heart rate monitor. So we're going to create that. And then we're going to name it 17. And to close the ones that, this is the code for the previous one, the one that we were working on. So still creating the project for some. Okay, that one takes a little bit longer because it's a sample, so it's downloading the entire code. So that's not there. Things that we're going to check really quick. Well, no, apparently it doesn't need the location. Okay, I added the location just for free. You need the health info, so you have it here. And then we can run this one. And make it run on our emulator. There's takes a second. And then here it is. So this one obviously is a little bit cooler because not only is showing you a number, it literally is showing you an animation. And that animation, I know for sure that it changes depending on the speed of like the heart. So you can see that it's going slower, and it begins to tell you if it's 0, it says that there's a problem reading. It assumes that that's the case. But if it's too high, and you can determine what is high, it's going to start telling you that there's a problem. Okay, it's 220. I thought that it was 200. So you can tell that it changes because at this point, like, well, you may be in actual danger. So then you see that it's a little bit cooler. So this one, if you download Tizen Studio, you can use immediately the sample, and you're going to be able to check the application. You're going to see that this one is quite different because instead of like coding everything there, is literally defining different modules and doing different things here that are in the core. So it's having more like an MVC application, so everything is a little bit more organized. But it was going to take me longer to do all that. So you see here in the model that it's defining everything that has to do with the event. But you are going to have you're going to have advantage that it has some additional code like the vibrations and the animation that is added there. So it's kind of cool that since you already understood the basics of what it is doing, how the sensors work, then get a little bit more ahead and just start creating this. The other sample that I wanted to show you, and that one I'm not going to open it because it takes a little bit longer, and I was prepared for that, is this one that is the Tizen Advance UI components. So this one is a cool one. Is because it shows you a lot of the things that you can do in terms of presenting your applications in your Galaxy Watch. So when it deploys, so here you have a long list of things that you can check, and there are some things that show you how you can show things on a smaller screen and still have like nice interaction. For example, in this case, how would you be able to present a photo gallery? Oh, click on the one. Sorry. And go back, and then you're also going to see things like the pop-ups, that it could be something with the text, for example, like that. So like messages, toasts that you're going to be able to send to your users, depending, something like that. And also things like these, well, controls that is quite useful too, like toggle buttons, for example. How to do that, it already has the code for that. So if you are already creating an application for Tizen, for the wearable devices, and you don't know how to do all these things, you would just go to the sample and you would just kind of check the code that they are doing, that they're using for these different controls and components, and that saves you a lot of time there. So you don't have to recreate everything. So, like for example, rather scrolling. So if you have a lot of text to present, then this is how you would do it, and then you would take advantage of the vessel, which I told you that it was one of my favorite things in these watches. And then another thing that is, for example, graphs that you can display here, or something like this one that is a dynamic graph. In this case, I do know for sure, well, start, that I think it's creating a graph with random data. So it's kind of like showing the graph there with random data points. So, and it just keeps going until you say stop. Let me see if I can find it really here. Paragraph. If it's here, if it's something somewhere else. Is it here? I missed it. There's one that it has like a small 3D model. So where is it that interactive? I missed it. I don't know if it's here. Ah, here, interactive 3D. So you can have a small 3D model that is being displayed there, and it shows you how to load everything. Or this other one that is the cover flow. So that would be kind of cool if you have a long list of pictures. And that's it. So that's very much in terms of the interactive part, or a little bit more there. So let me go back to the contact. So again, these are the two contacts that you can reach us. Especially recommend you to contact me first, since you already know who I am and the kind of things that I can help you with. Apart from that, like I said, you're going to receive some information after attending to the workshop. And I think as soon as we stop the meeting, you're going to receive a survey. So if you have a couple of minutes, please go ahead and fill it. We would really love to get more information, more feedback from you guys. And hopefully you did like the workshop, and that you also, well, participate in workshops in the near future.
Hey, Diego, can I chime in for a sec?
Yes, absolutely, Char. Go ahead.
So thanks, Diego. Awesome job. And I want to thank everybody who participated. And I just wanted to reiterate the survey that Diego just talked about. If you all can take a little bit of time to fill that out, it gives us feedback on how we can shape these events and continue to do a good job. We also have some swag that we'll be working with you all to share for our appreciation for you sharing your feedback on the survey. So thanks again, and we hope you all enjoyed this, and we look forward to doing this again.
I think Dana also in the chat, she share the forum link. So that's also somewhere a place where you can go and ask more questions. So you have other developers from Samsung and from just the community in general. So you can also go there. And someone was asking if the link that I shared had everything that I was demoing here. No, it has kind of like the first part. The last part, pretty much, I just kind of like the point I put it together for you guys. It's split in different pages around the documentation, but because you're going to have access to the video, you're going to be able to see everything here. And if you're interested, then since I already have this project pretty much that we created almost together, I can zip them or something like that and put them as links in the video on YouTube. So you could just download it and you don't have to recreate all the code and just go ahead and copy paste and use it in your own projects. So if that works for you. And apart from that, I think that's everything for me.
One more thing, Diego, I wanted to say for all those who gave us answered the questions, the pop quizzes that you shared, Diego, we were capturing your names throughout the workshop, so you will get an extra swag for all of those who answered questions, right?
There you go. That's pretty good. Thank you, Char. And again, I'm going to put it here again on the chat so you guys see it, at least for 1 second. My email, if you didn't take a screenshot of that when I put it there, you can send me an email if you have any other questions, if you have suggestions, if you have something else. I see that I think Miko, you have kind of like a longer question on terms of Wi-Fi, so we're kind of like running out of time. Well, we already went over time, so quite likely send me an email with that, and perhaps I can set up a small conversation with you. If not, there's a good chance that I may have access to the list of participants, so I will try to reach back to you next week. I don't promise anything this weekend because, well, it's pretty much the end of the week, so quite likely I'm not going to be doing much of that. But I can reach back to you and send you some more information and send links. So I'm going to have access also to this chat. So if I miss any other question, well, for once, I apologize. And second, I will try to reach back to each one of you if you ask for any additional links or information. So I'll try to send you that next week. So if it's not Monday, it's Tuesday. So I apologize my tardiness with that in advance. And that's it. Enjoy your weekend. Stay safe. And thank you for coming.
Yes, thanks. And great job, Diego. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Char.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.